I got kidnapped because of the dark web. Near-death experience. Part 3, last part. I've been on the run for over a year now. Every day is a battle to stay hidden, to stay alive. I thought I could keep moving, never staying in one place long enough for them to find me. But it turns out, I was wrong. A few weeks ago, I stopped in a small town in the middle of nowhere. I was exhausted, mentally and physically. I found a cheap motel and decided to stay for a few days to rest. I thought a place so off the grid would be safe, at least for a little while. One night, I was sitting in the room, watching TV, when I heard a noise outside. My heart immediately went into overdrive. I muted the TV and listened. There it was again. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, right outside my door. I grabbed my knife and crept to the window, peeking out from behind the curtain. At first, I didn't see anything, but then a figure stepped into the light of the parking lot. They were wearing a mask, the same kind as the men from the videos. My blood ran cold. I backed away from the window, trying to figure out what to do. If I stayed, they'd get me. If I ran, they might still catch me. I decided to try and escape through the bathroom window. I grabbed my backpack, shoved the essentials into it and climbed out the small window, praying it wouldn't make too much noise. I dropped to the ground and started running, not looking back. I could hear footsteps behind me, getting closer. My heart was pounding in my ears, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. I ran through the woods behind the motel, branches scratching my face and arms. I could still hear them, getting closer. I stumbled and fell, scrambling to my feet just in time to see a flashlight beam sweep through the trees. I kept running until I couldn't hear them anymore, then collapsed against a tree, trying to catch my breath. I knew I couldn't stay there, so I started moving again. Slower this time, trying to stay quiet. Eventually, I found an old abandoned cabin. It was falling apart, but it was better than nothing. I slipped inside and barricaded the door as best I could, then hid in a corner, clutching my knife, praying they wouldn't find me. I must have dozed off, because I was jolted awake by the sound of footsteps outside the cabin. I held my breath, listening. The footsteps stopped and I heard a voice. "We know you're in there. Come out, and we'll make it quick." Terror washed over me. They had found me. I knew I couldn't fight them off, but I wasn't going to just give up. I looked around the cabin, trying to find something, anything that could help. My eyes landed on a rusty old hatchet lying on the floor. I grabbed it, my hands shaking. The door started to splinter as they kicked it in. I backed into the corner, holding the hatchet and my knife, ready to fight. The door finally gave way and one of them stepped inside. His mask glinted in the moonlight, and he smiled, a sick twisted grin. "Found you," he said, stepping closer. I swung the hatchet, catching him off guard. He stumbled back, clutching his arm where I had hit him. Another man stepped into the cabin, and I swung again, but he was ready. He grabbed my wrist and twisted, making me drop the hatchet. I stabbed at him with the knife, but he knocked it out of my hand and punched me in the face. I fell to the ground, dazed. They loomed over me, the one I had hit with the hatchet clutching his bleeding arm. "You're going to pay for that," he growled. They dragged me to my feet and shoved me into a chair, tying me up with rough ropes. I struggled, but it was no use. They were too strong. One of them pulled out a phone and started recording. "Smile for the camera," he sneered. I knew what was coming. I had seen the videos. I closed my eyes trying to brace myself. But then I heard a noise outside, a car engine, getting closer. The men froze, listening. The car stopped, and I heard doors slamming. "Shit," one of them muttered. "Someone's here." They grabbed their gear and slipped out the back, leaving me tied to the chair. I struggled against the ropes, trying to free myself. I could hear voices outside, getting closer. Then the door burst open and a group of people rushed in. "Are you okay?" one of them asked, kneeling beside me and cutting the ropes. I nodded, too stunned to speak. They untied me and helped me to my feet. "We've been tracking these guys for months," one of them said. "You're lucky we found you." I broke down, sobbing with relief. They took me to a safe house, where I finally felt secure for the first time in years. They told me the men had been part of a human trafficking ring, using the dark web to find and terrorize their victims. Thanks to the evidence they found on the men, they were able to shut down the operation and arrest several key members. I was safe, but I knew I would never be the same. The nightmares still haunt me and I'm always looking over my shoulder, afraid they'll come back. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. The dark web is not a place for curiosity. It's a cesspool of evil, and once you step into it, you can never be sure you'll come out alive. Stay away. For your own sake, stay away.